Hey guys, we're Valley and you're watching Melodic Mag.
Hi, this is Zoe here with Melodic Magazine with Valley. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Pretty
good.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Can you introduce
100%.
yourself and say what you do in the band?
He pointed to me.
You go for it.
I'm Kara. I play drums and sing in the band.
I'm Rob. I play guitar and sing.
I'm Mike. I play guitar and some synth stuff.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So when I hear you guys talk about music, it's really exciting to see like how your passion really comes through.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about one moment in your life when you realized the extent of your passion for music?
Oh man.
Oh, that's a question.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just gonna. Yeah, well, I'll let you think. There's probably a few, but like growing up, probably like as cliche as it is, like seeing like the Beach Boys on TV, like just like seeing them harmonizing together and like just creating like the most beautiful sound just with their voices. I think that was like one of them for me. I just like was fascinated by it. Like I didn't understand what harmonizing vocals is or like how they use their vocals as such a like powerful instrument, but yeah, like that's one. Just I remember turning on the TV and my dad being like, "That's the Beach Boys."
Do you think that influences your music now? Because I know you guys. use a
Oh,
lot
for
of
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Pet Sounds is like
harmonies.
a life-changing album. I remember in college I did a project on that album.
I stole your Pet Sounds shirt. It's
Yeah.
it's my PJ. I
Oh,
sleep
yeah,
in
there
it.
you go.
Does he know about this? Or
Yeah,
is he
no,
around?
Yeah, it's
Maybe.
been in my house for like
I just
3
left
years.
it up. We share a lot of clothes,
Yeah.
fortunately, I guess.
For me, Kara, do you know yours? Do you want me to? Probably School of Rock, like the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
That
classic.
changed
Yeah.
thing.
That's a good one, actually.
When Zach Attack did the.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa! I want to be good at music as well.
He was
probably.
such a badass.
But that's the drums. You do the guitar.
Yeah, we all
You're very, really,
play
very
everything
similar.
though.
He's
Yeah,
very
I
influenced by drums.
Yeah.
Like, he's.
I think just like
he plays
every
guitar.
instrument is cool, and like when you produce stuff, it's like in the band we kind of often will be like whoever kind of while we're producing the actual record, like we don't stick to our instruments a lot. Like if Kara has a guitar idea, she'll just play the guitar part for that.
Mhm.
You know, if like whoever thinks of something, like we'll like pick up the bass and be like, yo, what about this bass line? So like
Yeah.
we all kind of play like a bunch of instruments, but like Kara's obviously the best drummer, so and comes up with the majority of the drum parts. But like, yeah, so I think we're all very influenced by all instruments. But the School of Rock for me was like, cello, you got a bass, like just everything. And then them like rocking out on stage and stuff, and the songs were good. Like they were actually great songs. So
That's true.
that was mine probably. Yeah,
Now you live in School of Rock.
Yeah.
yeah.
I really don't think I had a defining moment, to be honest.
It's a bunch of little moments,
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
For
I
some
think it
people.
was just like a very instinctual thing to do, and like there was like times where I was like, oh, like trying to like pretend that music wasn't what I wanted to do because society's really good at being like,
1 in a million.
you're not gonna make it. Like the first day of college, they're like, one of you in this class is gonna be successful, and the
Yeah.
other people are just gonna rot, you know, and like that's like
It's
what
like-
they tell you, but like it doesn't like. Sorry, there's a thing called social media, and like anyone can make a brand now,
Yeah.
you know. So like, it's so easy to do that. Like it's not easy, but like it's accessible, you know.
Mhm.
Like it wasn't accessible back in the day, but like now it is, and like I think when you realize that like if you just like the realization was less of like I wanted to do it and more of I can do this without, and my parents are really good at supporting myself and the band, so like it was less of like what do I want to do and more of just like being true to the fact that that is what I wanted to do.
How do I do it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was there something you were thinking of doing before, like when you were questioning that?
I don't know, like I guess I was just kind of like going into the default of just like business, you know. Like I don't know why.
General
I
arts.
knew I wasn't good at science. I'm not good at math. I'm not like particularly athletic. Like, I mean, I played sports in high school, and there was a time where I was like, WNBA, here I come. But then you obviously grow older, you're like, okay, no, I'm not a basketball player. Like, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that you ended up with the drums, because now, fast forward to now, we've got Maybe, which is a 15-track album in 3 parts.
Yeah.
We've got
It's very...
side A, side B in March, right?
Yeah.
Or
a single off
For-
of
okay.
a single offside B is coming in March. Yeah.
Maybe.
It's starting to roll out in March. We'll say it that way.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then we have another kind of thing that's bringing it all together as well. Like I wouldn't call it a deluxe, but there's other stuff that kind of comes into play.
In the end, though,
what
on
is that?
Spotify, it will look like one
Oh.
Yeah, it'll be
album.
one
There won't be
physical.
sides and there won't be singles.
Yeah.
It'll just be like an album. But
Yeah.
the release plan was like, it's confusing to explain only because I think because we're a smaller band, we're trying to like gain momentum after being on a hiatus for like 2 years writing. So like, well, not a hiatus, I guess, but just not like
Active
playing.
releasing
Yeah,
music.
just like we were just like in our basement for a while. So
I think it feels natural releasing it that way, but trying to explain it in like a sentence is it's basically like just
it's
releasing
changing.
it
That's
in
why it's hard
parts.
to explain because
So-
it is changing.
Because I was wondering how do the parts connect, and
Yeah, they do.
like how do you
Yeah.
choose which songs goes on which?
They actually are pretty much the order, other than like a few things moved around. But it's very much like Kara said, like connects together. Like every song has kind of like most songs, some even transition from one to the other.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, like we laid it out as like a full record,
yeah.
and then basically just like
Ah,
that's side A.
okay.
This is side B, side C. When we release side C, we're basically just releasing the entire record as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
With extra
Yeah,
stuff.
and then with like some extra stuff, like
Side A is like for driving, and side B is kind of
For sleeping.
sleeping or
Oh.
lying on your carpet in your room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
So
way I
like
to say it.
vibes, so kind of
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah.
Like there are some there's like upbeat stuff. It's just like maybe a little
there's also
slightly more experimental.
It's more diverse. Side B is much more diverse, I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's I think more emotional overall, both happy and sad and angry and all over the place. But
And after
it's
side-
definitely like more diverse.
Yeah. And then after side B, there's some other material coming out that's like all very different. One is like
Yeah.
a 90s kind of 2000s bop. One is like very much old roots for us, like a kind of folky, electronic, like Sylvanesso kind of thingy. And then there's also just like a newer kind of song.
It's funny. It kind of gets more and more experimental as the album goes on.
Definitely.
Does that have
Which is
something?
weird.
Because I know you did some of it in New York and some of it in Toronto.
Yeah.
Do like the different locations bring different?
Oh,
things
definitely.
out?
Yeah, we also did it in LA. I think the happy,
yeah.
like just kind of chill. Like a lot of side A was like Name Dropper and stuff was in
Definitely.
LA.
Which definitely brought a sound to it. Yeah, Name Dropper we wrote in LA.
So you get to just drive around
We
in
wrote,
the sun. You know,
yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
a nice vibe.
In New York was more hustle bustle, like on the subway every day, thinking about what you're gonna write about that day, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
definitely, you can like when I listen to them, I can hear it.
And Toronto's very homey. Like
Yeah,
there's still a light in the house.
was completely done.
Was done at
In
home
a
before
basement.
we went to New York
Yeah.
and LA. It was kind of the first song that we wrote for this record in full. Like that was the first song we kind of finished.
That one actually sounds a lot like home.
It
Like,
does,
It's
yeah.
funny. It's funny you mentioned that because I do think about that a lot.
Yeah.
The songs really do sound like where we wrote them, which is cool.
Can you give an example of like one you did in New York, one you did in LA,
Yeah.
one you did in Toronto?
Name Dropper is a good one. Like Name Dropper, I was at a session with Alex at the time when we started it. We were just like writing with our friend Dan, and we were just like on his balcony looking out at the Hollywood sign. Like it was very.
It's literally under the Hollywood sign in the
And,
studio.
and that song popped out because we were just like, thinking about just like being in LA. You meet a lot of people that are just like name dropping left and right,
Yeah.
whatever. Like it's just there's a very cliche climate sometimes to going out in LA and kind of the personalities that evolve and the people you're with. And so that song kind of the concept came out really quickly, and that's kind of an example of LA. New York, like our song Push for Yellow kind of started in New York,
Yeah.
which has that very
which is
kind of
heavier and more emotional.
Yeah, it has this like
yeah.
fleeing. We reference like coming down a fire escape. Like it's just like very much New York for us. And then Light in the House is very much home for us, and as it's even in the title.
Yeah.
And just kind of has this like, I don't know, anthemic like dreaming of being somewhere else but being stuck in a basement. Like that's what Light in the House sounds like to me. So yeah, those are kind of like 3 examples, I'd say.
Oh, nice.
It's funny
There's
when you
a bunch
read,
others.
you start
Yeah.
to realize things like in interview, like when people
Yeah.
are asking you questions, like
You're like, oh man.
didn't really think about it, but now it's like,
Yeah,
no, these are
that's
good questions. I like
These are
those
great
questions.
questions.
Yeah.
I never get to think about this stuff.
So I know you guys have described your songwriting as very collaborative.
Oh yeah.
So I'm curious, lyrics, is that also a collaborative process, or does someone generally like bring a story?
It's funny. On this record, it was all over the place. So like sometimes we'd have like lyrics written with no melody. It would just be like kind of an idea in our notes, and then like we'd like match it to something we produce, like just like a beat or something. And then other times like there's like more of a completed thing that Kara would bring, or like, and then I would kind of go in there and be like, oh, like this word doesn't make sense, or like to me like this feels more like what I'm trying to say and like what she's trying to say, and like it's very collaborative. It's very different. It's all over. Sometimes we'll like kind of sit and finish a verse together. We'll be like, how can we script
And a verse
this,
from
you know?
one song might like find itself in a
In
whole
another
other song.
Yeah.
Because we were like, this verse always felt out of place, but then all of a sudden those lyrics make perfect sense in another song.
Totally. We're very much like
Reuse, reduce, recycle.
Yeah.
very much Imagineers in that sense. Like we obviously let ideas sometimes go to like, if if you've tried out an idea a number of times it's not working, then obviously not. But we are big fans of kind of moving stuff around and making everything work, because it's all coming from like the same body,
space,
right? The same space. It's just kind of finding the places where it works if you really like stand behind what it means, right? So yeah. Very collaborative.
Do you make it like a cohesive story? Like how do you kind of make it?
A lot of the time we tend to like, we call them like eras or something, like when we're writing an album or like a set of material. So like a lot of the stuff is already kind of like related to a lot of things that we're writing about. So it's often easier to just kind of move things around and kind of, and sometimes you don't know. Sometimes it's completely subconscious and you end up like figuring out what you were trying to say like days later.
That happens a lot to us.
Yeah, all the time.
Like a lot of our lyrics are very open-ended for your interpretation of it. So like instead of specifically a story, like a listener might find like a line in that song that could be interpreted a bunch of different ways, but they went through something like that day and then they hear that line and then all of a sudden it's moldable into like their situation. So now they have like a special like meaning to the song that's like kind of about their life now. And I find our lyric, like, because we do write subconsciously a lot, especially Rob, and like so those lyrics are very like you can interpret them in your own way.
That's kind of,
and usually it's like like the era thing, like we're in a vibe and things
the
are
era thing.
The era things like are like there's like a bunch of things going on in our life, or like whatever things we've been through or things we're thinking about a lot. Like this album is very generational, talks a lot about like our generation, the good things, the bad things, the weird things, like the cool things. And so like if you take a line from this song, it might pertain like to this song,
like the same sort of theme,
because it's like same theme,
just
just subconsciously just happening.
That's like what it felt like to do. But like next record, we very much have discussed about being more direct and just kind of like, it's just like part of the process, right? Figuring out your kind of your strong suit and how to do it differently the next time.
So one line that kind of jumped out at me is, do you ever think about your future? Because I've seen it kind of in your promotions. Like it's on the sleeve of like a really cool long sleeve, and on the drum bass and then closer to the picture music video. So what's the significance of that line?
Yeah, that song is from Close to the Picture, which is like this very existential like social anxiety song. That song is very much like set in a space of like going to the party and like half of you wanting to be social but half of you wanting to like find the dog at the party and not talk to anybody. And that's a very kind of satirical, like that bridge we really wanted to kind of make it this satirical, like everyone has that moment when you like leave a huge social situation, and then you're like walking back to your car or whatever, and you're like thinking about like, what are like those people gonna do with their life? What am I gonna do? Like it's just like this. Like, everyone has those freakouts, especially after big social situations, because you like go to a party and like talk to like everyone.
And you see
what are they
Dave
doing?
who's a millionaire now.
Yeah. You see like you know Jenna's like working at a lab and whatever, and Joe's still working at the grocery store. It's like you think about all these things, and then like you leave because you just like get this influx of information from everybody that you like love, and then like you leave and you're like, holy shit. And we really wanted that bridge to sound like that, like just like it's just that big bursting.
Yeah, and the lyrics on the bridge is like, I saw an old friend like at the stairs while you were like leaving the house.
Yeah.
And then it's like, do you ever think about your future?
Yeah. So I think it's just like that's kind of the genuine meaning of it. And we've kind of just slapped it around the promotion. I think it's just like a very.
I think it's like a good like standalone.
It's a good line, just like here,
because
everybody does. Doesn't matter if you're 50 or 12, like you're thinking about your future.
Yeah, you never stop thinking about your future.
Yeah, which is a huge anxiety thing, is worrying about the future.
Yeah, so probably doing it right now.
So in the future, you're gonna be. Well, you had on your social media. You had on your social media. You invited fans to be in a music video.
Yes.
I heard vintage clothes mentioned.
Yes.
What's going on with that? When can we expect that?
Oh man.
Some details. A little sneak peek.
Probably soon.
We're so excited.
Yeah, the team we worked with are amazing. We pieced together this like. It's for our first single that's coming out. I'm just gonna say the name, whatever.
Okay.
We have a song called coming out called Park Bench.
Yeah.
It's kind of we've treated the song as like this like how would you describe it, like the.
It's like the quintessential.
It's the quintessential Valley track for maybe one of for a number of reasons, which I'll let
it's like
people
the
discover.
Point for the next era.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like there's always that one song. I feel like if you guys know the old stuff, like Swim. It's kind of that like pivot point, and then we took what we learned from like writing, producing, and just even like the world's reaction of releasing that song, either good or bad. Like you just take your knowledge from like what that song was able to bring to the band, and then like you use it to like
kind of did the exact
push
opposite.
your sound. Well, yeah.
No, but it was very experimental.
You use it to guide the rest of like your career. It's kind of like it's the lily pads, you know, like Swim, Park Bench.
It's definitely a touch point for us in terms of the record.
It's very experimental as well, but I think in the best way possible. Yeah. In the ways that we were like wishing to like grow. I think growth is a big word for that song.
For us, like we didn't make it in the sense of like we want to break boundaries, but it was the first time we really just like cleared the whole table of like preconceived ideas, and we just made something out of our heads that like was really wacky and quirky. So we ended up shooting a video for it, which we're really excited about. We did. I don't want to give too much away because I'm really excited for it. There's a lot of dancing and a lot of cool camera moves. It's gonna be cool. We wore colored jumpsuits, overalls.
Oh, nice.
It's a vibe.
It's gonna be really
what sort of dance moves are we busting out?
They're kind of like I don't know what you call them, like breakbeat.
Like,
I don't know.
All matching choreograph.
A lot of
synchronized movements more so than dancing. Like,
a lot of the moves.
We're not very good dancers, so it's more so just like moving all together. And
shout out to Jordan.
Our dance teacher. She kept us going.
I actually can't wait to see it. I've been like losing sleep over it. I'm so
really
excited.
But we're gonna drop it, really, and it's gonna be a big drop.
Well, amazing. Definitely looking forward to that. And well, thanks so much for.
Hell yeah!
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Those were great.
Great questions. Let's go.
It needs to be 2.
Yeah. Okay, good.
That was 3, so we need one more.
Thank you, Hannah. Behind the camera.